Divine Will, Chapter 3. Heat, light, and energy, etc., are attributes of the sunshine. Similarly, divine intelligence, divine wisdom, divine benevolence, divine will, divine law, divine grace, etc., are attributes of the divine life current called Word, Logos, or Nam. The sublime process of divine will is so perfect, complete, and meticulous that no outside interference or guidance is needed. None of the creatures except human beings have enough intelligence and freedom to interfere in the working process of the cosmos, which is directly governed by the divine law. Human being is made in the image of God and is bestowed with profound intelligence and freedom of thoughts and deeds. This divine gift of intelligence and freedom was granted to the man so that he could rediscover his divine self and his divine heritage with the help and guidance of awakened and illuminated souls. But unfortunately, man has been misusing and abusing these gifts of intelligence and freedom in pursuit of baser elements of Maya, and has become slave of the glittering magic of elusive Maya to his own detriment and consequent lifelong sufferings of unhappiness and misery. God has bestowed so many precious gifts on man, such as intelligence, energy, power, freedom, etc., etc. It is their correct use or misuse that makes or mars the life of man and brings happiness or misery into the world. If these divine gifts are used in conjunction and in tune with the divine will, we are spontaneously blessed with all the divine virtues such as kindness, compassion, peace, faith, devotion, love, bliss, and joy. When we manifest and reflect these divine virtues in our lives, the environment around us is transformed. We live in and enjoy a better, holier, freer, joyful, blissful, loving, graceful, real, and worthy sublime world in the kingdom of God. On the other hand, when we forget or disown our divine heritage, we are influenced by the glittering and elusive spell of Maya and become slaves of our senses, with the long trail of satanic vices such as selfishness, pride, arrogance, jealousy, hatred, anger, lust, greed, strife, violence, and whatnot, making our own life and the world around us frustrated, unhappy, discontented, sorrowful, miserable, horrible, and hellish. The crucial point for the man is the correct use of God's gift of free choice, for which we have to develop a sense of understanding, comprehension, identification, insight, and discrimination between one, materialistic world of elusive Maya based on ego consciousness, and number two, divine kingdom, where divine will and divine law prevail. In this connection, it would be interesting and instructive to study the following comparative chart between materialistic world versus divine kingdom. Egoistic consciousness versus divine consciousness. Egocentric versus divine will. Limited intelligence versus all intelligence. Myopic wisdom versus all wisdom. Selfishness versus selflessness. Hatred versus love. Jealousy versus tolerance. Greed versus charity. Borrowed power versus absolute power. Fleeting pleasure versus infinite bliss. Unhappiness versus infinite joy. Malice versus compassion. Wrong versus right. Falsehood versus truth. Vice versus virtue. Frustration versus equanimity. Misery versus bliss. I, me, and mine versus thou and thine. Karmic law versus divine grace. Maya versus God. Hell versus heaven. It is all a matter of change or transformation of our consciousness from egoistic conception to benevolent, kind, loving, divine consciousness. Even so, our choice is conditioned and inhibited by the instinct of our subconscious mind and also prevailing environment and the company we keep. Deep-rooted instincts or propensities cannot be changed overnight, but it is possible to change surroundings and company if we sincerely desire and opt for a better and sublimer life of divine consciousness. Influence of our contact with and company of the surrounding world plays a great role in changing and shaping our thoughts, beliefs, or consciousness, which form the basis of our good or bad lives. In other words, the company we keep can make or mar the fate and destiny of our lives. This illusion or misconception of our false ego is engendered in our mental consciousness through baneful company of ungodly elements of Maya. Therefore, it is obvious that a sublimer company or sad sangat is necessary to change or transform our egoistic consciousness. If cultivated, a powerful mind can influence the ordinary mind so deeply on the mental plane. Illuminated and enlightened souls can also awaken, inspire, and ignite the aspiring souls and usher them into the subtle intuitional plane of divine consciousness. Hence, it is beyond the grasp of intellectual understanding. It can only be realized by inner experience of divine attributes such as joy, bliss, and love in the depth of our souls. The inner experience of the soul is called intuition or divine consciousness. This intuition is the only means of contact or communion between man and God. It is through intuition that humanity can realize divinity and experience all the divine attributes of divine will, divine law, divine joy, divine compassion, divine benevolence, divine love, and divine grace. In other words, intuition is a means of transformation from intellectual knowledge of outer experience of mind to inner experience of the soul, i.e., consciousness of divinity. This transition or transformation of consciousness can be attained by turning our thoughts and minds inwards, by concentration and meditation with intense devotion. It is difficult, subtle, and sublime process of transformation of mind to the exalted state of divine consciousness. Contact, company, help, guidance, inspiration, and blessings of enlightened souls is imperative and essential. Unless and until our intuition or divine consciousness is awakened and developed, all our thoughts, motivation, and actions are liable to be misguided, misdirected, misconceived, wrong, and even painful, leading us to the unending trail of sufferings, making our lives miserable here and hereafter.